Now that we have a basic understanding on how to use a simple emitter and a particle group, I'm going to show you what conditions are. And we have three kinds of conditions: simple conditions, field conditions, and time conditions. And using conditions will allow you to create amazing effects using particles. So let's begin by creating a basic emitter. And I'm going to go to the particle group and rename it to particle group 1, and you will see that the basic emitter is emitting in particle group 1 in the properties tab. Now these particles should be green by default because this is the color that the emitter is using. What I want to do is add an additional piece of information. The particle group itself allows us to override some of the visibility settings in our viewport. First of all, the draw mode in default is dots, but we can change it to arrows, and these are very, very little small arrows that show the direction the particle is facing. We can use ticks, we can use lines, or my favorite, handles, because you get these axes for each particle, so you know which way they are facing. Now, you can also draw the radius, and although all particles now have the same radius, it's good to draw this so you can see how big a particle is, so that when you render it, you know how big it's going to be. And these are all overrides. These don't change the way the particles behave or render, just how you see them in the viewport. The other thing you could do if you have dots, for example, or arrows, is change the viewport color. You can override this and say, I want a constant color of red to view them. And if you go to handles, you will see that the radius is red, but the axis retains its RGB colors. Now, again, this doesn't mean that your particles are going to render red. This is just for the viewport. I have to say this to make sure that there are no misconceptions. In any case, these are the particles now. So let's go and create another particle group. And this is going to be empty. Nothing is emitting in this particle group. I'm just going to name it 2. And I'm going to put the similar settings: handles, a draw radius, size of 1. Instead of red color though, so let me put handles, size of 1, I'm going to put another color. I'm going to make these blue. Excellent. So if I rewind and press play, you will see we only get the red particles, which again, they're not red, they're just red for the viewport representation. What I'm going to do with the condition is the following. I'm going to add it to my object manager, to my scene. I'm going to make it a child of group 1 because I only want to check something in particle group 1. There are cases where you're going to use a condition in the root of your scene or not as a child of any particle group, and that condition is going to evaluate for every single particle in your simulation. But for now, I'm going to confine it to particle group 1. And in the condition, we have the following parameters. First of all, it's looking for a property of the particle. And if you go here to the property, you will see that the default is age, because a lot of the effects we do are based on the age of the particle. And you can say, for example, when the age of the particle is, go to the comparison, greater than or equals, and you put this in frames now, so that you can have better accuracy. So let's say 60 frames, which is 2 seconds. And the chance of that happening is 100% for each particle. This adds a bit of randomness in how this condition is evaluated and a seed for that randomness. But for now, we're going to check all the particles. So we're asking the system, when is a specific particle more than 60 frames, that's 2 seconds at 30 frames per second, and older? When that condition is met, we want to do something. And the question is, what do we need to do? Well, that is not something you set up in the condition. You set that up as a child of the condition. So you can choose something to happen. Let's take the simplest one, which is the kill, which obviously kills particles. I'm going to make the kill a child of the condition. So the whole proposition here is check the particles in group 1, and any particle that is equal or more than 60 frames old, kill it. So we should see all the particles die after frame 60, because some of these particles are born, because you can see here our emission mode is constant, which means it's emitting particles not only at the first frame, the second, the third, the fourth, and so forth. And this is what constant means. So what you will see is that any particle that exceeds 2 seconds of life, it will die. And there you go. Without this condition, they're going to live forever. And I can extend this so you can see that they will never die. Whereas if I rewind and activate the kill, they will die after 2 seconds. And here I'm just going to show you the randomness. You can go to the condition and say a smaller chance or a larger chance of these particles. The smaller the chance, that means that with every execution cycle, less particles are going to die, and we have a longer tail in which ones are going to die. There's always a mathematical probability that a particle will not die, but it's extremely, extremely small. So you will always have particles dying, regardless of what number you have here. Now with 0, I think it means that no particles are going to die. So you can even control it from here. But why would you say kill them if you don't want to? In any case, here we have 100% of the particles are being killed. And again, this is a chance of each particle to be killed. It's slightly different than 50% of particles dying. So let's go back and rewind. Now, instead of killing them, why don't we try something else? So I'm going to remove the kill. And instead, I'm going to use a modifier that's called switch group. This is with the data modifiers, the color mapper, the data mapper, the math, the kill, and switch group, because it changes a specific type of data which is associated to the particle. I'm going to explain what that means. Let's create a switch group. Let's make it a child of the condition, so it only executes when this condition is met. And it's asking me for a target group. And you may have guessed it, I'm going to put particle group 2 in here. So what we are going to see here is any particle that is in particle group 1, which is the original particles, when their age exceeds 60 frames, they're going to switch group and go to this particle group, which I've tagged the color to blue. Again, the visibility color, not the render color. Now let me press play and you will see that they're going to start turning blue, and there they are. Now the particles become blue because now these particles exist in particle group 2. Something very important you need to understand is that these are not different particles than the ones previously, the ones that were in particle group 1. They are the same particles with the same age. They're not reborn again. They just changed one of the parameters. And if you're curious to see what these parameters are, remember I told you can go to any particle group, go to the cache and open up the cache export settings. These are the parameters. But as far as the parameters that a condition can check, these are a few more. So go to the property here and check out all these parameters, group being one of them. So imagine that what group a particle is in is some sort of tag. It's not a different particle. And yet what you can do now is you can say, I want to clone a different shape on particle group 1 and a different shape on particle group 2. So let me create a cloner. I'm going to put a cube, make it of course smaller. Let me zoom out so I can see it. There we go. I'm going to put the cube in the cloner. I'm going to make a copy of the cloner, remove the cube and add a sphere. Make this one smaller as well and make the sphere a child of the other cloner. So this is cloner 1 and this is cloner, not 1, 2. So let's go to cloner 1 and cloner 2, set them both to objects, and for cloner 1 I'm going to use particle group 1, and for cloner 2 I'm going to use particle group 2. So what you're seeing here is the following, that the particles, and let me make my little cube a little bit bigger, okay, that makes sense. You will see that because they're switching group, they're also switching shape. And this is one of the things you are going to do to control your particles in many different ways. As we move on with our tutorials, I'm going to introduce all the different conditions and what they do, and many more of these parameters and the data modifiers.